My wife, Chloe, told me she was inviting a key colleague over for dinner. She said it was crucial for her promotion. She lied. It was her ex-boyfriend. For 2 hours, I sat at my own dining table while they mocked me, laughed at me, and reminisced about their old life together. The final straw, when she smirked at him right in front of me and said, "I think we're making my husband jealous." I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just stood up and walked out the front door. But that wasn't the end of the story. That was just the beginning. 3 days later, I scheduled another dinner. And this time, I was the one who brought a special guest. And the moment she walked in, they weren't laughing anymore. They went pale. This is the story of what happens when you push a quiet man too far. You're not going to want to miss the ending. So, if you love stories where the tables get turned, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button for Inspiration Seeker, give this video a like, and let me know in the comments right now. What would you have done in that moment? Now, let's begin. Our life on the surface was the Austin dream. We had a beautiful modern home in Travis Heights, with those big floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Greenbelt. I'm a software architect. I like logic. I like systems that work. I like stability. I thought my marriage to Chloe was the same, a solid foundation. Predictable, maybe. But I thought it was secure. I guess I was the only one who saw it that way. Chloe works in tech marketing. She's a different energy. She thrives on the pitch, the launch, the next big thing. I always admired that. I just didn't realize I had become her old thing. It started on a Tuesday. I was debugging a line of code, winding down for the day, when Chloe came into my home office. She was electric, buzzing with an energy I hadn't seen in a while. "Mark, honey," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "I need to ask a huge favor. I need to host a dinner. It's for a key colleague, a potential partner for the firm. This guy is crucial for me getting that promotion." I swiveled in my chair. "Sure, of course. Whatever you need." "When?" "This Friday," she said a little too quickly. "I know it's last minute, but he's only in town for a bit. It has to be at our house. It's all about the personal connection, you know." I just nodded. "No problem. I'll grill some steaks. We'll make it nice." "You're the best," she said, kissing me on the top of the head. "His name's Liam." Friday night came. I had the patio lit, the grill was hot, and I just opened a good bottle of Cabernet. Chloe was a wreck. She must have changed her outfit 3 times. I assumed it was just nerves about the promotion. Then the doorbell rang. The moment I opened it, my stomach tightened. This was not a colleague. This was a threat. His name was Liam, and he walked into my home like he was checking out a property he was considering buying. He was wearing a custom-tailored suit that probably cost more than my first car, and he flashed this brilliant 1,000-watt smile that didn't reach his cold, assessing eyes. "Mark, great to finally meet you," he said, his handshake firm, borderline aggressive. "Chloe's told me." "Well, she's told me you're the stable one." We sat down on the patio. I tried to make conversation. I asked about his firm, the market, the usual Austin tech talk. But the work part of the dinner was over in 30 seconds. Instead, it was, "Chloe, do you remember that time in Maui? The convertible." And Chloe, she giggled. A high-pitched, girlish giggle I hadn't heard in a decade. "Oh God, Liam, don't you dare bring that up." "I can't help it." "That was the best trip," he said, looking right at her, completely ignoring me. They were in their own world. A bubble of shared memories I had no part in. I was just the server, the guy refilling the wine glasses. The air got thick, charged with something heavy and familiar. It wasn't networking. It was a reunion. And I was just the guy paying the mortgage on the venue. We moved from the patio to the dining room. I'd spent hours on the meal. Grilled ribeyes, a complex chimichurri, roasted asparagus. The food sat on the table, a perfectly staged domestic scene, but the atmosphere had turned sour. I felt the sweat on the back of my neck. I was desperate to reclaim the evening, to prove this was my home. So, Liam, I said, my voice sounding artificially loud in the sudden quiet. Chloe mentioned your firm is looking at new platforms? I'm an architect myself, software, not buildings. I specialize in scalable cloud infrastructure. What's your focus? Liam paused, mid-chew. He looked at me for a beat, like a zoologist studying a very boring animal. He swallowed, took a slow sip of my wine, and then turned back to Chloe. Anyway, he said as if I hadn't spoken at all. The real play, Chloe, isn't in infrastructure. That's just plumbing. The money is in the disruption, the high-risk, high-reward plays. He leaned in, his voice dropping. It's for people who aren't afraid to jump. Chloe leaned in too. God, I miss that feeling, she breathed. My job. It's also safe now. So predictable. My hands gripped the fork and knife. Predictable. Safe. They weren't just talking about work. They were talking about me. Every word was a carefully coded insult. I tried again. Well, stability is what allows for that risk, isn't it? You need a solid foundation before you can jump. Liam actually chuckled a short, barking laugh. He pointed his fork at me. See? That's what I'm talking about. Foundations. Chloe, you remember what we used to call foundations? She laughed, putting her hand over her mouth. Don't. Liam, stop. We called it the anchor, he said, his eyes glittering at her. The thing that stops the boat from going anywhere interesting. They were on fire. They were a duo, and I was the audience. They talked about a project in Barcelona. Clearly a vacation. A late-night pitch that sealed the deal. Clearly a memory I had no part of. I sat there in the chair I'd bought, at the table I'd built, eating the food I'd cooked, and I was completely, utterly invisible. I wasn't the host. I wasn't even a guest. I was the help. I stopped talking. I just shut down. I figured if I go quiet, they'll run out of steam. They'll notice the awkward silence and correct course. I was wrong. My silence was a green light. It was the permission they needed to forget I was there at all. They got louder. Their laughter became fuller. Chloe's hand started to rest on Liam's forearm when she made a point. It was a performance. And the more I faded away, the more they seemed to enjoy the show. The main course was over. They had barely touched their food. I stood up and started clearing the plates. It was almost a reflex, the act of the stable husband, tidying up the mess. Chloe and Liam didn't notice. They were too deep in their own world. I walked into the kitchen, just on the other side of the doorway. I could still hear them, their voices now lower, more intimate. I stood at the sink rinsing a plate, the sound of the running water a dull roar in my ears. I was trying to figure out what to do. Do I confront them? Do I demand he leave? Or do I just go to bed and pretend this night never happened? And then I heard Chloe's laugh. It was low, throaty, and cruel. Oh, careful, Liam, she said, her voice carrying clear as a bell over the sound of the water. I froze. My hand stopped moving. I think we're making my husband jealous. My blood didn't boil. It turned to ice. It was a single, shocking, crystallizing moment. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just old friends being careless. This was intentional. The humiliation, the inside jokes, the condescension. It was a performance. And I was the punchline. My pain was their entertainment. Then came Liam's reply, the nail in the coffin. He'll be fine, he chuckled, all arrogance. He's the quiet type, right? The quiet type. The anchor. The plumbing. The man who would just stand there and take it. Something inside me didn't just break. It sheared. The part of me that was the husband, the hurt, embarrassed, loving husband, simply vanished. It was gone. And the part that was left, that was the architect, the logician, the part of me that sees a problem, analyzes its components, and designs a solution. I turned off the faucet. The click of the handle was the only sound I made. I slowly wiped my hands on a towel. I walked out of the kitchen and back into the dining room. They both looked up, those smug, satisfied smirks still on their faces, like they were waiting for me to cry or yell. I didn't look at Chloe. I didn't look at Liam. I looked right through them. I walked past the table. I went to the coat closet by the front door. I took my keys off the hook. Chloe's smile faltered. "Mark, what are you doing?" I put on my jacket. "Mark, don't be so dramatic," she snapped, her voice shifting from amused to annoyed. "Liam is our guest." I opened the front door. The cool night air hit my face. "Mark, you are not walking out on me. You're overreacting." I stepped outside. I pulled the door shut behind me. I didn't slam it. I just closed it. A quiet, definite click. I got in my car. I started the engine. As I backed out of the driveway, my phone lit up. It was Chloe. "Where are you?" I ignored it. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. Another text. "You're being ridiculous. Come back right now." Another. "God, you're so sensitive. I can't believe you're doing this." I just kept driving. I turned onto the highway, the city lights of Austin blurring past me. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I was done. The quiet type was done. I found a hotel 20 miles away, checked into a room, and turned my phone onto Do Not Disturb. The husband was gone. The architect was about to get to work. That first night in the hotel was silent. My phone, which I'd finally set to Do Not Disturb, was just a black, silent slab on the nightstand. It was a single-minded focus I usually only reserve for a critical system failure at work. In a way, that's exactly what this was. The husband part of my brain was offline. The architect was in control. I didn't sleep. I just worked. My marriage was a failed system. And when a system fails, you don't just get angry at it. You perform a root cause analysis. You find the single point of failure. I opened my laptop connected to the hotel's secure Wi-Fi and started with the only variable I had, Liam. Chloe said he was a key colleague. A potential partner for her marketing firm. That was the first lie I dismantled. It took me less than 5 minutes on LinkedIn. His name was Liam Kendrick. He wasn't a colleague. He wasn't in marketing. He was a founding partner at Horizon Crest Ventures, one of the most ruthless and successful VC firms in Austin. His profile picture was the same arrogant 1,000-watt smile I'd seen at my dinner table. His bio was full of the same buzzwords he'd used to mock me: disruption, high risk, afraid to jump. This wasn't a man trying to partner with Chloe's mid-level firm. This was a shark who swallows firms like Chloe's. So the narrative was wrong. This wasn't a networking dinner. The entire premise was a lie. So what was the real reason? Why bring him to my house, to my table? It was a test. A power play. I spent the next 48 hours building a file. I cross-referenced his name with tech journals, financial reports, and the society pages. And that's when I found the second, much larger structural failure. Liam Kendrick was married. He wasn't just married. He was married to Dr. Evelyn Hayes. I stopped. Evelyn Hayes. I knew that name. Hayes Pharmaceuticals. Her family was Texas royalty, but not the brash oil and gas type. This was old, quiet, powerful biotech money. I dug into her. She wasn't just an heiress sitting on a board. She was a brilliant biomedical researcher in her own right, with a string of patents that were funding half the innovation in the state. Liam's high-risk venture fund. It wasn't his money he was playing with. It was hers. He was the anchor, to use his term, attached to her rocket ship. I leaned back in the stiff hotel chair. The sun was coming up, and I hadn't even noticed. The whole picture snapped into focus, cold and sharp. Chloe's lie wasn't a simple, panicked lie to hide an old flame. It was a profound, multi-layered deception. She wasn't just disrespecting me. She was actively conspiring with a man who was, himself, playing a high-stakes game against his own incredibly powerful wife. This dinner wasn't a reunion. It was reconnaissance. What were they planning? A new job for Chloe? An exit strategy for Liam? It didn't matter. The quiet type had done his analysis. The architect had found all the load-bearing walls. And now, he was going to find the one person who had more to lose than I did. I picked up my phone. I didn't call Chloe. I found the direct professional contact number for the head of Dr. Evelyn Hayes' research foundation. You don't contact a person like Dr. Evelyn Hayes by sending a DM or a text. You don't call her cell. A person at that level is surrounded by firewalls, executive assistants, PR teams, and lawyers. Calling her foundation's main line would get me routed to a secretary who would ask me to submit a proposal. No. When a system is secure, you don't knock on the front door. You find a developer's port. I spent an hour searching academic databases and recent medical publications. I found a paper she had co-authored on gene splicing therapeutics. At the bottom was her direct, professional email address, the one reserved for her peers in the scientific community. I stared at the blinking cursor for a long time. This was the point of no return. This wasn't a marital spat anymore. I was about to detonate a bomb in the middle of 4 lives. But the architect in me knew, when the structure is fundamentally compromised, you don't patch it. You bring it down and build new. My fingers moved on the keyboard. I wrote, deleted, and rewrote the message until it was perfect. It was cold, formal, and lethally precise. Subject: confidential matter of mutual interest. Body: Dr. Hayes. Please excuse this direct and unconventional outreach. My name is Mark Turner. I am a software architect, and I am the husband of Chloe Turner. I am writing to you because I am in possession of sensitive, time-stamped information regarding your husband, Liam Kendrick. This information details his activities on the evening of, I put the exact date of the dinner, involving my wife, Chloe, at my private residence. The nature of this information leads me to believe this constitutes a significant mutual interest, with both personal and potential financial implications. I am available to discuss this at your immediate discretion. I am not seeking remuneration. I am seeking clarity and resolution. Respectfully, Mark Turner. I read it over. No emotion. No accusations. Just facts and leverage. It was an email that couldn't be ignored. I hit send. The silence in the hotel room was absolute. It was 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I had been up for over 30 hours. I didn't feel tired. I felt electric. I was a sysadmin who had just deployed a critical patch. Now, I just had to wait for the system to reboot. It didn't take an hour. It took 11 minutes. My phone, still on Do Not Disturb, vibrated. A new email. Not from her, but from her assistant, with a single line. Dr. Hayes is available for a brief call. What is your number? I replied with my number. 1 minute later, the phone rang. It was an unknown caller. I answered. This is Mark. There was a pause, just static. Then a voice. It wasn't the voice of a society heiress. It was the voice of a surgeon. Sharp, intelligent, and utterly devoid of warmth. Mr. Turner, she said. This is Dr. Hayes. You have 60 seconds. Talk. Dr. Hayes, I said, my tone matching hers. On the date I mentioned, my wife invited your husband to our home under the false pretense of a business dinner. It was not a business dinner. It was a reunion. They have a past. Another pause. A past is not a mutual interest, Mr. Turner. It's just messy. It is, I agreed, when the reunion involves them openly mocking me, and my smart home device records them discussing my wife's promotion and their shared disdain for stable, predictable foundations. I believe they were referring to us. The line went completely, dead quiet. I could hear her breathing, a single, controlled inhale and exhale. Where, she said, her voice now hard as diamond. Did you get this recording? From my own kitchen. He was at my table. I see, she said. Mr. Turner. I am canceling my afternoon. The lounge at the Hotel San Jose. Private. 1 hour. Bring everything. She hung up. The alliance was formed. The lounge at the Hotel San Jose is a classic Austin spot. discreet, minimalist, with ivy-covered walls that seem to absorb sound. It's designed for conversations that aren't supposed to be overheard. I arrived 15 minutes early. I sat in a secluded booth, opened my laptop and waited. Evelyn Hayes did not arrive. She appeared. One moment the seat across from me was empty. The next, she was sitting in it. She must have been in her early 40s, with a sharp, intelligent face that held no trace of her family's fortune or her husband's treachery. She was dressed in a severe, perfectly tailored gray blazer. She looked like the scientist she was. She didn't look like a woman whose husband had just cheated. She looked like a CEO who had just found a critical flaw in a competitor's product. "Mr. Turner," she said. No small talk. "Dr. Hayes." I didn't bother with small talk either. I simply turned my laptop to face her. "I'm an architect. I believe in data. What you're looking at are the text messages between my wife and your husband, which I recovered from our shared cloud account. They planned the networking lie 3 weeks ago." Her eyes scanned the screen, quick and analytical. She was processing the data, not the emotion. I saw her jaw tighten just once. "That's the what," I said. "Now, here is the why." I took out my phone. I had isolated the audio file from the smart home device. I hit play. The sound was crystal clear in the quiet lounge. Chloe's laugh. Liam's arrogance. "I think we're making my husband jealous." "He'll be fine. He's the quiet type, right?" Evelyn Hayes didn't flinch. She didn't gasp. She just stopped. A complete, terrifying stillness. Her knuckles, resting on the table, went white. She stared at the phone, as if she was memorizing the sound waves. After a long 10 seconds, she finally looked up at me. Her eyes were like blue ice. "He underestimated you, Mr. Turner. That was a fatal miscalculation." "I think he underestimated both of us," I replied. She gave a small, sharp nod. "You're right." She reached for her own briefcase. "You've shown me your data. Now let me show you mine." She pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. It was a spreadsheet of complex financial tracking software. "This," she said, "isn't an affair, Mr. Turner. It's an embezzlement." I looked at the screen. I saw dates, transfer numbers, offshore account routing. "I don't understand," I said. "Liam has been liquidating our joint assets for 6 months," she explained. Her voice as cold as a morgue. "Millions. He told me it was a bad market. That he was moving our investments to safer, low-yield bonds. According to this, he's been moving them into a new private fund. One my name is not on." My blood ran cold. The whole picture, the real architecture of the betrayal, slammed into me. "He was building an escape hatch," I said, the pieces clicking into place. "Exactly," Evelyn said. "He was building a new life. And your recording just confirmed his first new hire. He wasn't just reuniting with your wife. He was recruiting her, offering her a promotion at his new firm, funded by my money, built on my connections. That dinner, that was her final interview." I sat back. The personal humiliation of the dinner felt so small now, just a tiny gear in a massive criminal machine. I looked at her. I didn't see a scorned wife. I saw a CEO. I saw an ally. He didn't just lie to me, Mark. He stole from me. And he used your wife to do it. She closed her tablet. "They've compromised the entire structure. The foundation is rotten. It's time to bring it down. Both of them. What's the next step?" I asked. A small, dangerous smile touched the corner of Evelyn's mouth. "The trap. They want to be together? They want this new business? Fine. We're going to give them the launch party they deserve." I walked out of the Hotel San Jose into the bright, hot Texas afternoon. But I felt cold. I had a co-conspirator. We had a plan. And now I had to play my part. For the last 3 days I had been the architect, the analyst, the investigator. Now I had to become the actor. I had to put on the costume of the man Chloe and Liam believed I was, the weak, sensitive, quiet type. The man who overreacts, cools down, and then comes crawling back, full of apologies, just to maintain the foundation. I drove to a coffee shop, sat in a quiet corner, and picked up my phone. I stared at the black screen, which was still full of her angry, unanswered texts from 3 nights ago. I took a deep, steadying breath, and I composed a new message. I had to get the voice just right. I typed, "Chloe, you were right. I'm sorry." I let that sit for a moment. A perfect, simple admission of guilt. I continued, "I've been under a crushing deadline at work, and I've been a nightmare to live with. It was unprofessional of me. I was stressed, and I took it out on you and your guest. I was rude, and I'm embarrassed. This was the script. Blame myself. Blame my job. The stable provider. Cracking under pressure. Finally, the bait. I want to make it up to you. To both of you. Let me take you and Liam to dinner. A proper one. My treat. As a formal apology. How about Friday night? We'll go to Uchi. We deserve a reset." Uchi. The most high-profile, expensive sushi restaurant in Austin. A place you go to be seen. It wasn't just an apology. It was a surrender. A public display of my submission. I hit send. The system was live. The trap was deployed. I didn't have to wait long. My phone buzzed in my hand less than 2 minutes later. I could feel the smug relief rolling off her in waves. Her reply, "Thank you, Mark. I'm glad you finally see that. Apology accepted. Friday at 8 is perfect. It will be good for us. I'll let Liam know. I'll let Liam know." I closed my eyes. I could picture her in our house, a triumphant smile on her face as she typed a very different text to Liam. He bought it, she'd be writing. He's apologizing. I told you he was just the quiet type. Her arrogance. His condescension. It was the primary variable Evelyn and I were counting on. They saw me as the foundation. The anchor. They were about to find out that an anchor, dropped from a great height, doesn't just hold a boat. It can smash a hull to pieces. I forwarded Chloe's confirmation to a new, secure email address. The one Evelyn had given me. My message was simple. Subject. Confirmation. Body. The party is on. Friday, 8 p.m. Uchi. The guests have accepted. The architect had designed the trap. The actor had set the bait. Now, all we had to do was wait for Friday night. It was 7:45 p.m. Friday night. Uchi was electric. This wasn't a quiet neighborhood joint. This was a centerpiece. The room was packed with Austin's tech glitterati, the finance bros, the new money crowd. The noise level was a high, energetic buzz. It was the perfect stage. I arrived alone. I had made the reservation under my name, but Evelyn's assistant had called ahead. "Mr. Turner," the hostess said, her smile practiced. "Your table is ready. The corner booth as requested." It was the best seat in the house. A prominent raised U-shaped booth that overlooked the entire dining room. But more importantly, it had a clear, direct line of sight to the front door. Anyone walking in would be visible. And anyone at the table would be visible to everyone else. I sat down. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't order a drink. I just sat, my back straight, and watched the room. I felt nothing. No nerves. No anger. No sadness. Just the cold, clean calm of an architect reviewing a blueprint just before the demolition. I was a system administrator who had found the corrupt code and was about to hit execute. At 8:07 p.m., 7 minutes late, they arrived. They didn't just walk in, they made an entrance. Chloe was in a stunning tight red dress, the kind she hadn't worn for me in years. Liam was in an expensive open-collar shirt, his blazer hooked over one finger, slung over his shoulder. They were laughing. Chloe's head was tilted back, her hand resting in the crook of Liam's arm. They were untouchable. They were the stars of their own movie, and I was just the guy paying for their popcorn. The hostess led them to the table. Chloe slid in next to me, giving me a quick, patronizing kiss on the cheek that smelled like expensive perfume and victory. "Hi, honey," she said. Liam slid in opposite us, his smile wide and magnanimous. He leaned across the table, his voice full of fake buttery warmth. "Mark," he said, clapping his hand on my forearm. "Glad you came to your senses. No hard feelings. Really. You've got a great woman here." "Yes, honey," Chloe chimed in, her hand now on my thigh, a gesture of ownership for Liam's benefit. "We're just glad you're feeling better. We were so worried about you." I looked at her, then at him, and I smiled. A genuine, calm, almost serene smile. "I am feeling better," I said, my voice perfectly even. "I really am. It's amazing what a few days of clarity can do." The waiter arrived. "Can I get you started with some cocktails?" "Absolutely," Liam boomed, picking up the menu. "We're celebrating." "Just a moment," I said, holding up a hand. The waiter paused. Chloe and Liam looked at me. My smile hadn't faded. "We can't order just yet," I said. "I'm expecting one more guest." Chloe's smugness faltered. A tiny crack in the facade. "A guest," she said. "Mark, what are you talking about? I thought this was our dinner." "It is," I said, my eyes drifting from her face to the front door of the restaurant. "An old friend. Someone I was very, very interested in meeting. And I really wanted you both to be here when I met her." Chloe's eyes followed my gaze. Liam, annoyed, started to turn his head. "Ah," I said, my smile widening. "And right on time. She's here now." The front door of Uchi opened. It wasn't a dramatic, wind-blowing entrance. It was simple. A woman walked in. But the entire magnetic field of the restaurant seemed to shift and bend around her. The ambient buzz of the room, the laughter, the clinking glasses, it all felt like it dipped in volume, as if she were a black hole absorbing the sound. She was not dressed for a Friday night party. She was wearing a severe dark navy blue suit, tailored so perfectly it looked like armor. Her hair was pulled back in a tight, merciless bun. This was not a woman here for sushi and cocktails. This was a woman here to foreclose on a property. The hostess, flustered, rushed forward. "Ma'am, can I help you? Do you have a reservation?" Dr. Evelyn Hayes didn't even look at her. She simply brushed past, her eyes already locked onto our booth. She wasn't searching. She was targeting. Chloe, annoyed, leaned in. "Mark, who is that?" she whispered, her voice sharp with irritation. "Is she with your work? She looks intense. You should have told me." Liam was still turned halfway, trying to flag down the waiter. "Yeah, Mark, come on. Who's your PL?" He stopped. He stopped breathing. Evelyn was now 10 feet away. The light from the bar caught her face. It was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. All that VC bro, high-risk swagger, all that arrogant 1,000-watt charm. It didn't just fade. It was obliterated. It was like I was watching a building implode in on itself. The tan on his face went gray. His eyes widened, not in surprise, but in pure primal terror. He looked like a man who had just opened his front door to find the ocean where his lawn should be. His hand, which had been raised to call the waiter, went completely slack. The heavy, leather-bound menu he was holding slipped from his numb fingers. It hit his ceramic plate with a loud, sudden clack. The sound was sharp, obscene. In that one suspended moment, several tables turned to look. That's when Chloe knew. She didn't recognize Evelyn. But she saw Liam's face. She saw the terror of a man who had just seen a ghost. Chloe's own face went through a rapid 3-stage collapse. From irritation to confusion to a dawning icy horror. Her hand, which was still on my thigh, recoiled as if I had suddenly caught fire. Evelyn reached our table. She stood at the head of the booth, a silent, refrigerated column of sheer power. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Chloe. Her eyes were fixed, with the precise, unfeeling focus of a microscope, on one single object. Her husband. Liam was trying to speak. His mouth opened and closed. A dry, rasping sound came out. Evelyn, he stammered. His voice was a thin, strangled thing. What are you doing here?" I thought you were in Houston for the conference." The violin note in the music suddenly, finally, cuts to absolute, dead silence. Evelyn just stared at him. And then, very slowly, she turned her head. And she looked right at Chloe. Evelyn's gaze was so intense it was almost physical. Chloe shrank back under the weight of it, pressing herself into the upholstery of the booth. "So," Evelyn said, her voice quiet, but it cut through the entire restaurant. "You're the coworker." Chloe just stared, her mouth half open. All that sharp marketing charisma was gone. She was just a woman in a red dress who had been caught. Liam, summoning the last fumes of his arrogance, tried to regain control. "Evelyn, this is not the place," he said, trying to stand up. "This is a private. This is a misunderstanding." Evelyn didn't even raise her voice. "Sit down." He froze. And he sat. Her attention snapped back to him, and her eyes, which had been cold, now turned white-hot with a surgeon's precision. "I'm not here because of her," she said, gesturing to Chloe as if she were a piece of furniture. "I'm here because of you. Evie, listen. You just cost me a $10 million portfolio, Liam," she said, her voice a lethal whisper. "All your talk about a bad market, about liquidating to safer assets." She slowly turned her head and looked right at Chloe. "It seems your bad market is sitting right here." That's when she reached into her briefcase. She didn't throw the papers. She placed them on the table, one by one, like a judge delivering a verdict. She slid the first, thick-bound folder across the table to Liam. It landed in front of his plate with a heavy, final thud. "Those are divorce papers," she stated. "They were filed this afternoon. And this," she tapped a second document in the folder, "is a court-ordered emergency injunction freezing all your assets, including your little escape hatch fund. My forensic accountants are very, very good. You didn't just move my money, Liam. You stole it. That's fraud." Liam's face wasn't just pale. It was waxy. He looked dead. Then Evelyn turned to Chloe. Chloe, who was looking at Liam with a new, dawning expression of pure panic. She was realizing she hadn't hitched her wagon to a star. She'd tied it to a sinking stone. Evelyn slid a second, thinner folder in front of Chloe. "And this," Evelyn said, "is for you." Chloe didn't move. "It's a notice from my legal team. A cease and desist. You are now a person of interest in a major financial fraud investigation. If you or anyone from your firm ever contacts me, my foundations, my companies, or," she glanced at Liam, "what's left of my husband, I will personally see you named as a co-conspirator. Stay away." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence at the table. The buzz of the restaurant around us was just white noise. Chloe and Liam were frozen. Two statues in a tableau of their own ruin. And that was my cue. I slowly, calmly, stood up. I took my wallet out, dropped $300 bills on the table for the water and the inconvenience. Chloe's head snapped up. Her eyes were wild. "Mark." It was a question. A desperate, pathetic plea. I looked down at her. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pain. I just felt done. The system was rebooted. "My lawyer has a copy of all of this, Chloe," I said, my voice just a normal conversational tone. "I'll be staying at the hotel. We can talk about the house later." I looked at Evelyn. She gave me a single, crisp nod. I turned. And I walked away. Evelyn fell into step right beside me. We didn't run. We didn't look back. We just left. Two architects, walking away from a condemned building we had just brought down. We walked out of the restaurant, past the hostess, and into the cool Austin night air. We left them there, speechless, ruined, and pale, with the entire crowded restaurant staring at the wreckage.